As you most all know, I film this stuff while I'm actually out working. As opposed to trying to hide the dog, I hope you don't mind, I actually am shifting over so you can see it rather than, oh, he peeks over my shoulder and, oh, we got to shoot this again. Because frankly, I don't have time. I got work to do here. What we're going to go ahead and cover today is playing the cards we're dealt. So much of what's described, and I'm including myself in this, most definitely, is ideal. Hunting the downwind side of doe bedding areas. You know what? When you've got that 5-acre cedar thicket, that 5-acre swamp, that 5-acre evergreen stand, oh, geez, does that ever work nice? Mr. Big knows all he has to do is circle the downwind side of that established doe bedding area and boom, as long as the wind's right, he's went ahead and scent checked every single deer in there. Okay. What about that ridge that the deer just kind of bed along? What about that 300-acre swamp? Are they ever going to cut the downwind side? Of course they will, but you know what? They're going to be doing a lot more running around inside it. What about those homogeneous woods where they bed all over the darn place? There's all sorts of situations where, you know what? We don't live in utopia. Everything isn't set up the way we need it to be. And the exact same thing applies to habitat improvements. I went ahead and planted dwarf Essex rapes for many years up in northern Wisconsin. You can't keep the deer out of that stuff up there, especially once it gets to late season. What does that deer have as options? It can eat dead weeds, dead grass, dead sticks, and or buds, or it can eat dwarf Essex rape. Any wonder why the dwarf Essex rape is such a huge draw up there? But now you take that exact same planting, move it down to northern Missouri like I did. And my goodness, was that ever a lush plot the next spring because the deer never hit it. Nothing works the same everywhere. Every single property is different. Every deer has its own personality. We have different strengths and different weaknesses. What we are always best off doing is playing the cards we are dealt. Don't force those square pegs into round holes. Instead, get out there, figure out what we have to work with. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? How can we go ahead and put our strengths on steroids? How can we minimize our weaknesses? Some weaknesses we can't do a darn thing about. The whole point, though, is listen to what almost everyone has to say, but there is a huge difference between listening and doing. You don't have to do any of it. I mean that sincerely, because everything that works for me is not going to work for you. And certain things that work for you are not going to work for me. What we all need to do is focus on playing the cards we are dealt.
Final thoughts, brought to you by Huntworth.
So many things that work great over there will not work here. A bunch of things that work great here will not work over there. Don't try to force square pegs into round holes. Instead, figure out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are of both the habitat, the deer herd, and yourself. Because different things are going to work better or worse for you than someone else. Okay. Try to put your strengths on steroids and then try to minimize your weaknesses. Okay. But do not try to do all these things that are successful over here, successful over there, or successful over here. Instead, take what fits and pitch the rest. That is by far the best approach I've ever found to doing this stuff.